One of the challenges that I think a lot of entrepreneurs face, especially young entrepreneurs, and especially nomad capitalist entrepreneurs who are living as global citizens, is how to choose the right friends. The friends that we have dictate the growth, the success, the mindset that we have. We are who we're surrounded with. And so when I found an article recently by Robert Kiyosaki on how to choose friends to be successful, I loved it, and I wanted to share with you some of the key points as well as some of my own experiences. We'll do that in this video. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson from nomadcapitalist.com, and it's true. I've been running my own businesses, doing things on my own for about 16 years now, ever since I was 19 years old. And there are times that can be lonely. There are times when you're not sure who to have as your friend. And you know what's interesting is the more successful you become, the harder it gets. And I've had the privilege to work with folks who have, ultra high net worths in the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars, even occasionally in the billions of dollars. And as they say, it's lonely at the top. What I want to share with you in this video are some insights from Robert Kiyosaki. Of course, he wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and many others. And he's really one of the people who I think popularized and really introduced this concept that there are people who come from wealth and who surround themselves with wealth. They think differently, they act differently than people who are from the middle class or from the lower class. This is not designed to pick on anyone, but there is a truth that when you have the right mindset and you have the right environment, that it's going to go a long way in promoting you. And so that's one of the reasons why I asked Robert Kiyosaki to speak at our upcoming conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. He'll be there speaking to you and sharing some of these principles and answering some questions about this stuff. But let's talk about this. The words that Mr. Kiyosaki used is birds of a feather. You've heard that phrase, birds of a feather flock together. You've also heard the phrase, your network is your net worth. Birds of a feather, okay? The point is, if you associate with people who are not successful, and really in this day and age, it is easier than ever to be successful. We have folks who we help who are from Morocco, from Egypt, from all over the world, really. We mostly work with folks from the Western world, but we get folks who are from all over the place. And some of these guys have built multi-million-dollar businesses from a laptop. It's easier than ever to be successful. Success is a choice. And birds of a feather flock together. If you choose to associate with people who are not successful, you're going to have a very hard time being successful and certainly being more successful. And so what's interesting is, there are people that I have acquaintanceships with who I'll talk to every once in a while, how's life? And it's always interesting hearing the different perspective from people who have not invested in themselves, who don't invest in mentoring, don't invest in coaching, don't invest in growing their self-awareness, don't learn new things. They're just out there trying to, sell stuff. And they'll say, oh yeah, man, it's so hard to keep, clients for $500 a month. Or, hey man, wow, like $1,000, like that's a lot. Now, I'm not trying to criticize anyone at any point in their journey, because we've all had to go through a point where $1,000 was a lot of money. I can tell you early on in my business career, I was very cautious about spending $1,000. That said, it's also part of what held me back because I was too cautious for too long. And so what's interesting is when I started hanging around people who were joining mentorship societies for $70,000 at a year, a lot of people, including myself many years ago, would say, oh, that's what suckers do, paying $70,000 to learn some stuff. Well, when I started hanging around those people and I started seeing how it was working, I eventually, started doing it myself, and eventually started, investing sometimes, a lot of money into mentorship and learning new stuff. And I became far more successful at that time. I got to the next level. And so shifting the people that you associate with is very important. What Robert Kiyosaki also talks about is you want to learn how to do things for yourself. You want to invest in knowledge. And one story that he tells is, he says he has several friends who, have multi-billion-dollar net worths. And so you can imagine, I mean, they have people coming to them all the time, pitching them stuff, asking them for stuff. And he says, you know what they tell me? He says, almost no one ever comes to them and says, hey, tell me how you did it. They come and say, hey, can I have a loan? Or can you just give me some money? Or can I have a job? Now, getting started is the most important thing. And so you may not have, $35,000 that I once invested in mentorship to get to the next level that dramatically helped me. But you know what you can do? We also had a very young gentleman who reached out when we had our first conference, our first ever conference. He emailed me. We didn't really have much of a team back then. I think I had like one part-time assistant because it wasn't really a business at that point. And he said, hey, I'm a really young guy. I'm like in my late teens. He was like 18 years old. He said, like, you tell me what you want me to do. Like, I'll run your website. Like, I'll get you people to sell tickets. Like, I'll go, like, whatever, And I said, okay, I'm a guy who knocked on doors from 8 years old. I respect the hustle. And I said, all right, come on up to our first conference, as it was in Las Vegas. I said, come on up and we'll put you to work. And he learned by being around people who were at a far higher level than he would have associated with just, hanging out in his hometown. He got to hang with the attendees. We had Peter Schiff at that first conference. We had a lot of other really successful speakers. We had myself. We had a good friend of mine who's an expert, marketing and messaging person. And he got to be around these people and absorb their knowledge by volunteering to help. And so if you're not already successful, if you're not already having some income and you're just starting out, that's one way to do it. How many people reach out to Robert Kiyosaki's billionaire friends, or even reach out to Nomad Capitalist and say, hey, can you do something for me, right? How do you make it worthwhile to the other person? How do you add value to get in and to add knowledge? If it's not, investing at a high level, it could be giving at a high level and getting in and surrounding yourself with people and making friends in those environments. And so the number one rule of what Robert Kiyosaki talks about, let me get into a few points here. The number one thing he talked about was choose friends based on what you can learn. Okay, just because someone has a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean anything. Choose friends based on what you can learn. You want to be constantly learning. You want to be constantly growing. It's the old saying, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I've seen, and I used to be this way, and I see sometimes people now doing it where there's an ego around like wanting to be smart, wanting to get your opinion out there, wanting to be intelligent. Obviously, when I'm hosting a group of folks and we're talking about real estate in some far-flung country, maybe I'm in the wrong room because I'm teaching people. But generally, when it's not me teaching people, I want to be going out and learning things from people. And so you want to have friends based on what you can learn from them. It's not a one-way street. Obviously, you should be sharing things as well, but you want to be expanding your knowledge, you want to be expanding your experiences, and you want to be expanding your mindset, okay? It's exactly what he said, Go to people and say, how did you do it? What did you do that I can apply myself? That's rule number one. Rule number two is don't associate with friends who live in fear. One particular story he told that I kind of chuckled at was he talked about how he told a friend of his that he's making 16% interest. But what I thought was, since he lives in Arizona, we're state taxed, he said the government pays me 16% interest, and he says it's been working for me for years. And meanwhile, his friend is going investing in stuff that's much more conservative out of fear. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with investing in something conservative. Putting your money in a term deposit, for example. Now, probably not a great value in putting your money in a term deposit in the United States, where you earn 0.5%. I might choose to go to an emerging market that I feel comfortable with and make 4, 5, or 6%. I don't think there's anything wrong with having some of your money and stuff like that, and then some of it in things that are a bit higher earning. But the point that he was making was, if people around you are fearful, you're going to have a problem. This is one thing I see consistently when people come to us for help, and especially when I'm meeting people that we're working with in person. They'll come and they'll meet me in a certain place, and I'll, how is the flight, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll say, hey, Do you tell everybody that you're here? You tell your friends and family? And what I've increasingly heard is, no, I didn't bother. Nobody even knows where I am right now, because they don't get it. Because what happens is people get into this stuff. They get into the nomad capitalist stuff of banking and investing and living overseas, and they get excited, right? Whenever you learn something new, you want to go tell everybody. We've all done that. And they'll go tell their friends, they'll be like, you're moving to where? You're going to Malaysia, you're gonna be killed. And what they've learned is they've just said, I just stopped talking about it because my friends and family live in fear, right? Even here, people watch our stuff and they'll say, you invested in Cambodia, you're an idiot. Okay, I'll put my results up against anyone, right? But if you surround yourself with people who live in fear, then you're going to be dragged down into fear. One of the things that I've dealt with in past years is self-doubt. And it's a big issue, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people who are successful, is if you allow yourself to be surrounded by people who are perhaps jealous of you or who want something or whatever the case may be, or they're just not clear on their own path, they might say things that will cause you to doubt yourself. And if you're not totally solid in where you're going, that's going to drag you down, okay? You have to know where you're going. You have to be confident in yourself. You have to be confident that you're doing the right thing. That's especially true when it comes to this nomad capitalist stuff, because very few people around you, perhaps even none of your friends, are going to understand why you want to live in Malaysia. They're not going to understand why you want to travel the world. They're not going to understand why you want a second passport. After all, you only live and were born in the best country that God ever shined upon. Why would you ever want to leave Tennessee, right? Why would you ever want to leave Australia? So people aren't going to get it. And do you know what the reason is deep down? They're afraid. Beneath the anger, beneath the rational quote-unquote arguments, is a fear that if they leave, something's going to happen to them, they're going to lose all their money, whatever, even though you haven't seen any news articles about everyone in Singapore losing all of their money because they put it in the bank, But if your friends live in fear, they're eventually going to drag you down with them. It's one that I've dealt with. I have people who live in fear, I have people who instilled self-doubt, and it hampered me from being at my full potential at times. Point number 3 from Mr. Kiyosaki's article was, don't be friends with people who want to change you. Certainly we can have honest disagreements with friends. I've had friends for 10 and in one case 15 years. They live in the United States. They don't plan to leave the United States. They don't entirely get it, but they've seen me doing what I'm doing. And by the way, the longer that I've been out of the United States, obviously I gave up my citizenship. I'm pretty intensely doing something different than what they're doing. But the more they've seen me doing it, the more they respect it, because they are the rare, good friends who we can have honest disagreements on certain things, and we can make different lifestyle decisions. But if people are trying to change you, if people are trying to shame you, if people are trying to bring that self-doubt into perspective, and they want you to be like them in order to be your friend, that's a problem. Point number 4 is, if you have friends who want you to be more like them, in the sense of only spending money on experiences, only spending your money on stuff, okay? People who can't delay gratification. If you're surrounded by those folks, there's going to be a peer pressure on you to keep up. This is the keeping up with the Joneses. And I've told this story so many times that, the guy in Denmark who has friends who make 300,000 euros a year and they save 0. Because they drive the nice car, they go on the nice vacations, they live in the nice house in the right neighborhood. Now let me be clear, talking to 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs, particularly when you keep more of your own money and you go offshore and you're not paying 50% tax anymore, yeah, it's okay to go and invest in something that you like for lifestyle reasons. Go out and rent a sports car for a day and drive around the racetrack. Go buy a pair of Gucci sneakers. Go take a nice trip, okay? But, in my case, I'm saving the vast majority of my income and investing that into various channels. I spend very little, even though I spend more than most people. So I don't want the 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs to think, you have to constantly delay gratification. Those of us who grew up in what I call the Protestant work ethic homes, where it's, keep working, keep working, keep working, sometimes you need to go out and you need some gratification. You need to enjoy what you're doing and not just squirrel it all away. You can eat avocado toast even if it costs more than 22 cents. It's okay. You're doing doing all right for yourself. But what you don't want to do is be surrounded by folks who want you to spend your last dollar, or even worse, go into debt to go on a cruise with them. Okay, it's going to be a hard time telling those folks no. And so more importantly even than the fact that you're going to debt, you're not saving anything, is that you're building the wrong habits. You're building the wrong mindset being around those people, okay? Because you are not teaching yourself how to delay gratification. What I love about the nomad capitalist lifestyle is that not only when you dramatically reduce the taxes on your business and you keep more of your own money, do you get more motivated to go out and work harder, because no longer are you giving 52 cents on every dollar to the government that wastes it, and you can put it back into your own business and create opportunities. Okay, so you'll make more by going offshore. But not only that, once you are personally offshore and you're not in my Denmark example, you're not in that kind of situation, you no longer have to live in the right neighborhood. Do you know where I live, wherever I go? Wherever I want. And I don't care what the local people are saying. Oh, this is the trendy neighborhood, right? I'm looking at properties in Belgrade, Serbia right now. The wealthiest people live in a neighborhood called Dedinja. I don't want to live in Dedinja. I don't want to have a car. I want to walk where I'm going. I don't want to live in this neighborhood. And because I'm not, immersed in the local culture, I don't have to worry about it. I just do what I want. If I don't want a car, I don't buy a car. Now, you could buy a car if you wanted to. I choose not to, right? I don't have to send my kids to the right school. I don't have to go on vacation to the right resort in the right place that's not what I want to do and that costs more than I want to spend because John and Kathy and Tim and Jenny are going there and I have to keep up with them. And so the cool thing about the nomad capitalist lifestyle is this keeping up with the Joneses, this peer pressure gets reduced because you don't live in an environment like that anymore. You're living with people who are much more intentional. And so that would be what I would add to Robert Kiyosaki's tips for finding friends. Find people who are living intentionally. Okay? You don't want to be around people for whom, oh God, it's Monday, thank God it's Friday. You don't want to be around people who are just, they always, they have these ideas in their mind that, you always have a mortgage, you always have a car payment, the little guy can't get ahead, our people, can't become successful. As Dave Ramsey says, wealth is weird, it's uncommon, it's unique. Being successful is not a common trait. And so the key is having friends in your life who are intentional. So those are Robert Kiyosaki's tips. You can read his article. You can see him at Nomad Capitalist Live. What tips on finding good friends do you have? Leave a comment below. Tell us your tips. I want to hear from you. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.